So that's a great way to separate your business from your personal. And once you have a business bank account, and if you're writing checks from it, then you'll be able to see where your money is going. You actually have information so that by the time tax season comes around, you actually know how much expenses you would have spent in the year, and you would have known how much sales you would have made.
Today we have with us Melinda Belle, an author, teacher, and financial consultant who from an early age had a particular interest in money. Melinda sees her role as that of an architect and is committed to the shaping of financial landscapes of men, women, boys, girls, businesses, and nations, teaching families and individuals to manage their money and to create wealth. Melinda is the founder and managing director of Astrape Finance Inc. in Barbados, with a mission of being the leading financial education company, providing resources on personal and business financial management in the Caribbean. Her book, My Money and Me, is a life-transforming book for the individual who wants to change the way they view and manage their money. My Money and Me will transform the final state of individuals, males, females, entrepreneurs, small, medium, and large business owners. Join us in welcoming Melinda Belle.
Great. Awesome. That was a wonderful video introducing our final guest speaker. Now, when I hear finances, the first thing that comes to my mind is show me the money. And, as authors, book sales, business from your books, finances, everything goes hand in hand. So Melinda, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
It is our pleasure. This is our pleasure to share not just information, not just your book and what you're doing from your book, but perhaps practical advice about money that I'm sure us authors and aspiring authors can use. So your book, My Money and Me, and I hope I'm getting that correct.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So tell me something. Tell me about what caused you to write that book.
Well, if I could start from childhood, I was naturally gifted in that area in terms of writing compositions. My teacher in primary school commended me for how well I wrote. You wouldn't believe, although I am actually teaching people about money and helping people with their finances, I struggled with subtraction while growing up. So it's ironic that after that struggle that I'm able to teach people about such a thing. Yeah. So, she would have asked me to actually write an article in the classroom magazine, and she was quite impressed with it. And then when I went into secondary school, one of my teachers, my English teacher at that time, she would have read my composition in front of everyone. And she asked me, wouldn't you consider a career in being an author? I laughed because that was the last thing that I was actually thinking about, because it's not necessarily the field that people or the career that people are encouraged to go into. So I kind of like laughed it off, but she was still adamant that I do it. Now, I went to a community college here in Barbados and then the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. And I have a double major in computer science and management. So that definitely did not have anything to do with finance, because as far as I was concerned, I was avoiding it. I struggled with it while I was growing up. That's not the thing that I'm called to, okay? However, my first job I got was at a law firm, and I was the accounts officer there. And then it was there where I realized that that was my love and my passion, because I was exposed to accounting and the arena of finance and how numbers work and how necessary it was for business. So after I left there, I transitioned into an offshore bank, and I was there for about 5 years. And I saw firsthand how the financial crisis would have affected people. during that period of time, I understood that they may not have had all the information that they needed in order to make informed decisions with their money at that time. And I felt that there was a niche because I didn't think at that time there was somebody in Barbados that was doing that at that point. So this led me to actually starting my company in 2012, March 1st. This year we're going to be 9 years old with no money whatsoever. And I talk about that in my book because there's a bonus chapter where I talk about how you can start your business with $0. It's quite possible, okay? And when I actually entered into it full time, meaning that I was the chief bottle washer and cook and everything, I then understood that my gift was still necessary. So I started writing again. I actually created a blog where I communicated with people. I wasn't so strong with actually talking to people or speaking publicly then, but that was my most comfortable area. So out of that, even before I got to My Money and Me, I would have had an idea about a mascot that could teach children how to manage their money. So I created a coloring book, Lampy, the Lighthouse Earning and Spending, which talks about how how you can teach your children how to manage their money from an early age. And the Barbadian currency is throughout the actual book. But then after that, that led me to actually writing My Money and Me. So it was a process for me to get to that point.
Okay, so really it's a culmination of both your life and your experiences.
That's right.
Wow. And when you said you weren't good with subtraction and now to be writing a book about finances, you would think, sometimes teachers write students off like, oh, you're not good at that. And, this is not for you, which it's surprising as adults, we turn the table, be it by chance or by design.
It's
Uh,
true.
Yes. So tell me something, because you did say that during the financial crisis, you realized that a lot of people didn't really have the knowledge that they would have needed to navigate the turbulent waters. For authors, do you, how can I say it now? What do you think the author community is lacking, or what could we use as it relates to finances in our books? I realize, and the reason why I ask this, I think most authors, they're really concerned about getting the book sales, and that is it. But what happens after the book sales, or what happens during that? So what would you say to us aspiring authors in terms of our pitfalls and what we can do better?
The thing that comes down to making sales is to really know your numbers, especially if you're selling physical copies. It's so important to know how much it would cost to create the product, okay? And it comes down to knowing how much it would cost to print it, how much it would cost your graphic designer to format it, and all those different things. Because remember, you're pricing for a profit, and I'm sure that Ruth would take care of that in her academy and her different courses that she has to offer. So it's really good to know how much it would cost to create that product. Now, the other thing that we need to remember also, especially if you're actually selling physical copies, once you know how much it costs to create it, retain that amount of money from that sale, the amount of money that it will cost to create your product, so that you could actually have the money and roll it over so that you could actually accommodate more orders over that period of time. But then what's also important in terms of having the business acumen as an author, you have to know how to read financial statements. You need to have an accounting system set up so you could actually track your sales, so you could actually track your expenses so that you can know the amount of money going in and the amount of money flowing out, because you never know, somebody may be interested in publishing with you, or somebody may be interested in investing in what it is that you do. So you actually need to show, this is the record sales that I have so far, this is the amount of money that I've spent so far, but with your help and with us together, we could actually accomplish more. But this is how much I would have been able to accomplish. And even in terms of tracking the amount of money that you would have actually invested into creating the product, into having the graphic designer put the layout of the book together in terms of the photography, whatever it is, investors like to see that you would have actually put money into this project. So it shows that you're also invested in it. And because you're invested in it outside of the time and effort you put in, but the amount of money that you put in, it shows that you would be quite the candidate to work with.
Wow, this is some pretty sound advice, because even though now I'm in the process of publishing my book and I don't know if anybody else is in the same boat as me, I have an idea of what I'm spending and how much I've spent. But in terms of saying keeping records, I I haven't done it. And it's diversion, so to speak. I remember when I did accounting and I passed, and I'm like, oh, great, I can go to A levels, and I failed that. And I'm like, yeah, that's no longer for me. So I kind of, put it down and decided that accounting isn't for me. So, I guess now looking back at what you're saying to keep records, I suppose even a simple program or a spreadsheet
That
in
could work.
Excel could do. Um, so what was, since as we're talking about finances, let's dive into some of your finances. What was it like in terms of the publishing process, the writing and publishing process for your book financially?
Sure, no problem. From what I remember, these were the different costs that were associated with actually publishing my book. For sure, CARICOM, there's a CARICOM office here in Barbados. So you're encouraged to get an ISBN number. My project manager at the time would have encouraged me to do so. So it's kind of like an ID for your book so that nobody steals your idea in a sense. So I was encouraged to do that. So there was the cost for that. There was also the cost to my graphic designer in terms of the layout of the book that was included. Forgive me if I don't remember the numbers right now. That was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that I'm just talking about the various costs. She took my lovely photo as well too, so that all those different things, the makeup, the dress, all those things were important. And but the key cost that I had to include was an editor, because believe it or not, I don't have the patience to go back and look at the different errors or whatever I would have made. But she was so strategic in that she helped me help the book flow naturally or flow in the way in which I speak. So you have to make sure that you spend money in terms of producing, but of course it can be cost effective. You don't necessarily need to hire. I didn't hire somebody full time. This was done on a contract basis. So I worked with them. They told me this would be the price of managing the project, and those were the different things that I did. So I at times I do print. So there's a printer that I go to here, but I am looking for a more cost-effective way to print. So I'm glad that I'm connected with Ruth, so she could probably point me in that direction. And then also what I did was make it digital. So I would have published it on Kindle as well. And I would have done that in 2018. There are other avenues I tried as well. I tried Etsy so far, but at the end of the day, the marketing and promotion is so key, because I can't assume that everybody knows about what it is that I'm doing. So then there's the marketing cost at times, sometimes promoting on IG, letting people know there's a solution I have to offer. And that's how I've been working it so far.
Okay, wow, awesome. And guys, I hope you're paying attention to the various costs that dear Melinda is telling us about, because guess what? Yes, and again, I keep harping on this. There are some authors and they're able to publish with minimal spending. But if you really want to maximize the impact and the income that your books will have, you really can't neglect your design, your editing. Editing is so important. I've
Yes.
seen books get roasted on Amazon because of simple errors that could have been avoided by having an editor. And one thing that you said that is near and dear to my heart is the marketing of your books. Uh, because you know what? And I think you said it just not too long ago. You have to put it out there. You can't expect that your
No.
family and friends will share your book. You can't expect that you're going to get free publicity, and you're not Michelle Obama. So Amazon isn't going to put your book at the top of the list. That's just not happening.
No. Mhm.
So in terms of, because I note that you say you had a project manager, would you say that person acted as like your guide or your coach? Because I know some people had mentors or coaches, some people paid for consultation. For you, that came in the form of a project manager.
I would say she was more, um, meeting my weakness, because in terms of the nitty gritty details of managing a project, that's not my strength. I don't have the time. I know and I understand what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. In particular, with the coloring book, I had an illustrator. I knew that that was not my strength. I had a graphic designer, the same graphic designer again, that was not my strength. And even my project manager at that time had other teachers vet the book just to make sure that it flowed and that it made sense. So at the end of the day, she helped me look at what I wasn't looking at or what I didn't think of. And especially the admin, in terms of, because I had a book launch in 2016. So she would have notified the press, all those different things. So it's good to have somebody with a strong admin sense. I mean, I am strong in admin in terms of the accounting and all that stuff, but in terms of that other aspect, that's not my strength. So I am the sort of person that welcomes people who have strengths that I don't have, because at the end of the day, I know that with other people, a vision can be accomplished, and I'm well aware I can't do everything on my own.
Awesome. Another nugget of advice: get help with your
Mhm.
weaknesses.
Yeah.
That will help to build a better book. Did you have any challenges through publishing of your book? Or if no challenges, what were the exceptional moments of writing and publishing your
Yeah.
book?
Well, actually, writing the book was a challenge, because, when you're going through a transition yourself, and even what you're writing is challenging you at the same time. So it was like a battle of sorts. And also thinking and remembering that, you know what, I'm worthy of this. And all the things that would have happened in the past, in terms of my struggle with subtraction, in terms of how I felt about myself when I was younger, and thinking, you know what, would this really actually benefit somebody? Would this help someone? Would anybody want to listen to me? All those limitations and all those things were creeping around my mind. So despite how I felt, or despite how I thought, I just decided this is what I was supposed to do, because I knew this is what God wanted me to do. At the end of the day, this is my purpose, this is my calling. So I'm going to make sure that I wrote a little daily or monthly. I remember it being just a board that I had, and I pinned each chapter on the board. And I remembered, okay, you know what? This is how it's going to format. I can literally see it in my head right now. So to get it from that point to this point, I think is a great achievement. But at the end of the day, if I don't do anything, it's not going to become a reality. And it's all about perseverance and persistence, and that D word, which we are all working on, discipline. For sure, yeah. So I would say those were the things that I had to overcome, and to really believe that I could have written, well, this will be my third book, because I have one on my website, which is for free, and then the coloring book. So this is my third book. So it's really mind boggling that I'm able to do this. This is what I was born to do. So yeah.
Awesome. So you said something about discipline, and throughout this session, I've been hearing other published authors saying they had to set aside writing time, undisturbed writing time, or else it would never have happened. Was that the case for you, or were you able to just kind of write whenever? What was your writing style like when it came to doing the book?
The thing is that I would have been invited on Morning Barbados. It was a morning show that was here, and I would have had the opportunity to be on their personal finance segment, where I would have talked about various financial topics. And someone said to me, like, you've shared so much information. You have lots of content. Why don't you put it together? Put it in a book. And I thought, well, maybe that may be a great possibility for sure. So I actually had information to work with, but what I would have sent to the host at that time would have just been bullet points. So even if it is that you're looking to start to write a book, if you have a chapter, you could start with bullet points for each chapter, and then you could write extensively explaining and expanding. So that's how my mind works. I can't just sit and write a whole chapter all at once. I have to figure out what the chapters are, and then once I know what the nuggets for each chapter would be, I put it down and then I expand on it. So that's how I work. That's my writing style.
That's excellent. And that's a good point for anybody who may be struggling with trying to figure out how to write and how to get things organized. I know different strokes for different folks, but this
Sure.
is one possible idea, one possible avenue to take. I actually like that idea as well. You have your bullet points. I know Ruth has a whole system in which she teaches people, and it wouldn't even make sense to try to go through that right now. That would be a whole nother session in and of itself that you can get in the ASA membership group. That being said, she does teach you how to organize your ideas, your thoughts, your chapters, and your point. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. There are multiple ways to get it done.
Authors, we don't like business, but once you publish a book, you are in business mode.
That's it.
You are no longer in creative mode. Once you get into buying and selling of that book, you're in business mode. There are people who are going to come to you and ask you, can you just give me a book? What advice do you give in terms of how many books to give away and what's the best practice? So when, for example, I started in 2015, I registered a company as a sole trader. It wasn't a lot, Extra Mile Innovators. No, at the end of that, no, you have to file taxes, and they talk about setting up your own account. What are some of the things that we can use? Talk to us, just give us some best practices, advice, financial best practices as we enter entrepreneurship.
Sure, no problem. So it starts with registering a business name because you're a viable business. So it starts there. You may not be able to incorporate the company as yet because we're talking about costs, because it costs money to incorporate the company. With INC at the end and so on. I didn't incorporate my company until, because I started in 2012 and I didn't incorporate until 2017. There we go. So it took me 5 years to get to that stage. But whatever your registration institution is that allows people to register business names in Barbados, it's the registry or corporate affairs. Okay, so it costs 104 Barbados dollars. That would be 52 US to actually register the business name. You could name it whatever you want. Just make sure that nobody else has that name. Now, even though you are a sole proprietor, you still should file your taxes. At the end of the day, the income that you earn should be reported. There's a reason why I say to track your expenses, because it would lessen the amount of taxes that you would have to pay. So let's say, for example, here in Barbados, the first $25,000, and that's in Barbados dollars. Okay, so just work with it as your own currency value. Okay, I don't want to convert it to US. That'll hurt my head at the moment. So the first $25,000 of our annual income is tax-free. So if your net profit ends up being $25,000 and less, we wouldn't have to pay any taxes. Okay, so if I make $10,000 in 1 year and I have expenses of $2,500, then the net profit is $7,500. Then that means I don't have to pay any taxes, period. Which is why I say it's so important outside of recording your income, because that's going to be the easiest part. Now, if you want to have a method by which you're able to track all of your expenses, I would highly recommend opening a business bank account. After you would have created the business name, financial institutions require that when you're looking to open a business bank account, they need the business registration certificate so that you can open it under that name. And once you open it under that name, then that will be your official bank account. Of course, they would need certain documentation. They would need your ID. They may need proof of address and a utility bill as well as proof of address, okay? The wonderful thing about having a business bank account is that it separates your business from personal. Because if you put all of your income on your personal income account, guess what's going to happen? You're more likely going to actually spend your money or your business money more on your personal items than on the business items, because you need to actually make sure that you actually reinvest that money back into the company, okay? So that's a great way to separate your business from your personal. And once you have a business bank account, and if you're writing checks from it, then you'll be able to see where your money is going. You actually have information so that by the time tax season comes around, you actually know how much expenses you would have spent in the year, and you would have known how much sales you would have made. Now, that doesn't mean that as a sole proprietor, you're putting all of your rent money under expenses, because we're focusing solely on your business expenses. Now, in terms of tracking it, if you want to do it manually, you can get a receipt book. It's so simple. Every time you go to a showcase, you have somebody there to help you. They could record the amount of money and issue receipts to people who would have made purchases with you. And then also you may want to get a general ledger. It's just a simple thing. You just put a date, the vendor, and the expense, and the amount of money that you would have actually spent. At the end of the year, you would have had all that information together, because it's super important to have a filing system in place where you actually have all the receipts in place. And if it is that you're not really au fait with doing all that accounting work in terms of filing your taxes, you can hand it over to an accountant who will be well equipped and able to actually help you with that. So those are the different things that you could look into with respect to having your financial system in place. It doesn't need to be complicated or complex. There's some people who may like QuickBooks Online and they're okay with it. You can consider that, but just know that there's a monthly fee. Wave apps used to be free and it used to be widely available within the Caribbean region, but now they're solely restricting it to the US and Canada, or else I would have recommended it. But those are the different things that you could do.
All right. Thank you so much, Melinda. So you have to, as you said, price for a profit. Set a target. How many books am I going to give away that doesn't affect that? You are, for us, we do a lot of direct selling. That's how we sell most of our books, and you can make the $500,000, like Teddy said. When we sell books directly through speaking or another means, that is how we make most of our money, not on Amazon for majority Caribbean authors, because we don't have the money to do ad spend. And not when you're just starting out, but within your own little circle, it's easy to sell 200 or 500 books. She's saying you have to write down those costs. So every time, for example, you're going to give away a book, you have to check what's happening there. When you put the books in different bookstores, you also have to check and say how many books are left in this store. And you have to track it. You have to track it so that you can say, is this making sense? And it gets even more advanced when you start doing courses and coaching. Then you also have to track those funds. That's why this session is so important, you know. Don't take it lightly. You have to track all, not only are you tracking book sales, authorpreneurship, you're going to level up. You have to track your coaching clients,
yes,
who is paying you what. And for those clients too, if you're going to be a publisher, you need to draft up a publishing agreement for persons to sign that. Or sometimes a non-disclosure stuff. If you're working with freelancers, you also want to draft up agreements, contracts with them.
yes.
Melinda spoke about that. Draft up the contracts. I just stating some of these things because it's all exciting. I say, let's raise up 10,000 authorpreneurs. Part of what we're doing with this support group is to help you to make less mistakes in the process. So It's work. You can get assistance. Like I have an accountant. I hate doing the accounts. Melinda also mentioned having a file. You need to file things away. So I have a little case here that has, whenever I print a book, I keep the receipt. Whenever authors give me money to pay for anything online, one of the things that has been helping, if you have to pay out in US dollars, PayPal, for example, tracks your account. So that helps. And I heard in another broadcast that they say you don't even have to open a formal account. You could have just one of your savings account that in the initial stage, you just designate that as your business account, your book account, so that you can see the money coming in and out. Melinda, is there anything else based on your experience and your expertise that you think they need to know, especially as they level up to be creating products and services around their books?
Yes, you can do different things around the book. I mean, even before I did the book, there are different services that I offer. I do one-on-one consultations. I do that for singles. What I also do are one-on-one consultations with couples. So that's another revenue stream. There are workshops that I do, financial wellness workshops that I do, in particular with organizations, with business owners, because they're seeing how really important it is to actually give their staff the information and the tools that they would need to manage effectively the amount of money that they have. And in particular, last year, I was doing quite a few, and they were really seeing the importance of it. So I'm open to that as well. And then also there are the business clients that I have as well too. I mean, I mentioned in the book about how you could actually start a business with $0. So there are business clients that I have as well too. And I look at their accounting, their tax filings, and all those different things. So out of the book, or out of the solution that you have to offer, you can branch off and make it into different revenue streams. It's quite possible. But like I said, the marketing and the promotion is really, really important. So much of what we're discussing here is what I try to implement as it relates to, surrounding the book, or books are the different ideas that I have. And that's what I do.
Before I hand over back to Raquel, we are introducing you to different income streams and what you can do. We're not saying tackle all of them.
No. No.
Some people is just books and speaking.
Yeah.
Some is just books and coaching. Some is just books and seminars. Some is just books and offering just one publishing skill, which could be the formatting. So we don't want anybody to leave this summit getting it twisted that you have to go out and try 10 different things. You may not be able to manage that, but track the finances as well with that, because sometimes independent authors are approached by traditional publishers, and you can use the numbers to put yourself in a good bargaining position and say, this is what I am making. Yeah. So if your advance is less than that, then I won't take that deal. So thank you very much for that. Raquel, I'm going to turn over back to you. Go right ahead.
I think you've done such a wonderful job in helping us to navigate the financial waters of our books. It's I loved when Ruth asked the question about giving away your books for free, and you really know having to track that, because we have our friends and families who want a copy.
Yes.
You give them a copy and it comes out of your head. So when you realize, but as I purchased 1,000 books to distribute, and I only have $1,000, but I thought I'd have had $10,000. What happened? Not realizing that I gave away like 500 books, and you didn't really track it. And so that's good. Let's have Melinda share with us anything that she has upcoming in the pipeline.
So someone asked me the other day, do you have your book available in audio format? I'm like, No. And then he said, well, I really would like it in audio format, please, because my mother is visually impaired. So if you could look into that, that would be great. And I said, well, Melinda, that's a challenge you're just going to have to accept. So I'm looking into that revenue stream possibly for this year. No, those are the other things, the other revenue streams that they talked about. It took years to actually get to that point. Okay. So don't feel pressured into thinking that everything was an overnight success for me. No, most people think that about me, but it took a lot of work, a lot of hours, and a lot of creativity just to get to that point. I'm also looking to have an online academy, Money Matters Academy. I would have launched it already, but not officially. I mean, the website is there, Money Matters Academy. So the coloring book, actually, the course, I made it into a course for children. So it's there if you're interested. What I'm looking to do is to offer free financial planning webinars. And what I'm looking to do is just to educate people, just take time just to give that just a little, just go through the basics of financial planning, just to empower people. That's what I'm looking to do. And also looking to write another variation of my book because it looks like there are different things that are going to come out of it. My Money on Me for divorced people, for married people, for kids, for teens, because I'm getting questions about actually doing a book for teens. So I'm looking into doing that as well also. But there's a book in particular that's going to be very dear to my heart. And I know this is going to be a process and this is not something that is going to be released right away. My testimony, TESTIMO anyway. And it's just talking about my personal finance journey for sure, because I think people relate very well to telling stories, telling your own story. So that is going to be a gradual work in process. I'm not rushing that, but look out for it in the years to come. Just know that on January 23rd, that was what I was looking to do. But really and truly, what I'm looking to do is to really form partnerships and do collaborations, especially because I want to reach out and expand, because I know that there are key people that I can come into connection with. And I know this is the beginning of it, because my dream is to go global, to be, to be honest, because I would like to be a New York Times bestseller for sure. But I know everything is a process, but those are the main things that I'm looking to do this year.
Awesome. And I would love to see that money book really go further, especially for teens, because you know what I realized? Our education system is such in which it teaches us how to go out and be good employees.
Yes.
It doesn't really teach us how to manage. It definitely doesn't teach us how to create much, but for sure, it does not teach us how to manage our finances. Yes, if you did accounts, then you'd have learned your profit and your loss, but that doesn't always translate into budgeting on a day-to-day basis. So I would love, I know it's not something that happens overnight, though I would love for snap of a finger and all those books will be ready. But I'm sure others here as well are looking forward to seeing more of those books. I think that the way how you're doing it now sounds like the chicken soup for the soul book, I believe, where they've done so many different things with that.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
exactly it. That's exactly it. I realized that because this is just the generic, but then in terms of speaking specifically to different demographics, that I can branch out and speak to different people. And I just realized that that was the case, but I never saw it as chicken soup for the soul. I never saw it like that. So you just opened a whole different perspective for me.
Well, awesome. I'm glad I could have imparted something. So Ruth has been dropping how we can connect with you, but perhaps you can give us from you how can, if somebody wants to get in contact with you for consultation, to have a chat for your webinars whenever you start working with them, how can we contact you?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram. Do that right now. Money Matters with Melinda. And in my link, you will see the different things that you can go to. There's actually the link to the Academy. There is the link to my book on Amazon. There is the link to you actually booking an appointment. You can actually have a complimentary consultation with me. That's quite all right. We could talk for a little bit for a limited time, just see, where you're at and where you're looking to go and how best I can help you. You can look for my website, astrapefinance.com, and it's being listed in the chat. You can look for me there also. When you go on IG, you will see my WhatsApp details. So if you want to chat with me afterwards, 1-246-848-5441. 1-246-848-5541. You can contact me there and we can talk as well. So you can find me there. I may not be able to go to you, but you can contact me digitally. And Ruth just listed my email address as well too. So you can contact me there as well. And I look forward to speaking with you.
Awesome.